Oh, hello. In today's video, we're going to talk about Goatmen, by which I mean the Felgore Ravagers. Kill Team, Faction Review, let's go! So, Felgore Ravagers, there's a reason I picked them to get back onto the Faction Rundown BS. They're a really straightforward team in a lot of ways. So you got Recon and Seek and Destroy, great. You're probably going to go for Recon. You can do stuff in Seek and Destroy as well if you want to, no worries there. 10 models. You have your Ironhorn operative, who's your leader. Now he has 2 weapon suites, Corrupted Pistol and Corrupted Chainsword, Plasma Pistol and Bludgeon. And this is the classic thing where we're seeing a slightly stronger pistol or a slightly stronger melee weapon. There's a little bit of discussion to have over which is the best suite of weapons for the Ironhorn. We're going to do that a bit later when we get to the Ironhorn slide. I'm leaning towards Corrupted Pistol, Corrupted Chainsword, but you can go either way quite happily, I think, now. And then you've got 9 Felgore Ravagers selected from the following list. So you can go Deathknell, Fluxbray, Gnarlscar, Gorehorn, Herd-Goad, Mangler, Shaman, Toxhorn and Vandal, and then you leave the warriors at home. And that's it, that's your team. Yeah, there we go. Really simple, dead simple, in fact. Wonderful. A great starting team from the perspective of buying and making choices at the hobby desk to how to build your models, I think. Is it a great starting team to learn how to play Kill Team? A lot of the nuance in Kill Team is in the shooting phase, and these guys don't really shoot things, but a great team to get into from the ease of getting into the game point of view for sure. So, they have one iconic faction rule. If you've even ever heard the name Felgore Ravagers, you've heard the name Frenzy. This is very much the thing that they are known for as a kill team. So, we're going to read the rule, and we're going to talk about it. So, whenever a friendly Felgore Ravager operative that doesn't have one of your Frenzy tokens would be incapacitated during the battle, it's not incapacitated. Fantastic. And it gains one of your Frenzy tokens. Amazing. All remaining attack dice are discarded, including yours if its operative is fighting or retaliating, and if it has a conceal order, change it to engage. So let's stop there for a minute and just break down what we've got. When you kill me, I don't die, and the combat ends. That's where we've got to so far. So you kill the goat doesn't die, it gains a frenzy marker, and the combat, the shooting attack, whatever it is, that action is gone, disappeared, finished, memory hold. Okay, good. Now, whenever a friendly Felgore Ravager operative has one of your frenzy tokens, 1, it's only incapacitated as detailed overleaf. So it's not killed when it doesn't get all its wounds back, it's still on 0 wounds, it's incapacitated. There's a different set of rules for incapacitating it. We'll come on to those for a second. It can't go on conceal, it counts as injured, it can't perform the pickup marker or any mission actions, but it can still open doors. And for the purposes of determining control of markers, you treat its APL stat as 1. Okay, and this takes precedence over any other stat changes, so for controlling markers, APL stat is always 1. So essentially, it's entering this kind of crippled state, okay, where it can't go conceal, it can't be injured, it can't do mission actions, it can't pick up markers, and it can claim objectives, but it will be contested off them by any kind of APL2 miniature. But this is already after it should have died, so that's not so bad. Okay, so how do you kill a zombie goat? Right? Let's read on to the second page. So, a zombie goat dies, essentially. A friendly Felgore Ravager operative that has one of your frenzy tokens is incapacitated when one of the following is met. So, a zombie goat dies if 1, its activation ends. So, you only get 1 extra activation with each dead goats, okay? Or, an enemy operative is fighting or retaliating against it, and your opponent strikes with a critical success. So, if you're in combat, however you're in combat, if you ever strike a goat with a crit, it dies. If it's a frenzied goat. Right, think of it as a zombie. That makes the more logical sense for me to try and make sense of the team, right? An enemy operative is fighting against or retaliating against it, and your opponent strikes it for a second time with a normal. These can be strikes from 2 different fight actions. Now, this one is slightly confusing. An enemy operative is fighting, so you basically, if you strike it with the normal, and then because you had obscene bad luck, you didn't manage to land the second normal, you'd have to remember that you'd struck that with a normal, because then a second normal from a fight or retaliate action from any other source would kill it. Now, does that persist across activations, or is it only, so, imagine you had a miniature and you struck it with a normal, and then activation ended, and then the goat didn't activate, the zombie goat, and then you had another miniature, and then you struck the same zombie goat with a single normal. Would that then incapacitate it? I'm not actually sure. Let me know in the comments if you know the answer. Because it does say, note the strikes can be from 2 different fight actions, so I'm assuming so. That they don't have to be... But then it says an enemy operative is fighting... yeah. Unlikely to come up, to be honest, and not particularly that relevant, right? An enemy operative is shooting it, and so if you do a critical dice in shooting as well. So I got confused there. Essentially, it gets an activation unless you crit it before it activates, or you strike it twice with normal hits in melee before it activates. Okay, good. Last little bit, it dies when the battle ends for victory point purposes. So that's the kill op. So for the kill op, when you first kill it, it counts the kill op, right? And you treat it as being incapacitated when it's frenzied for the purposes of scoring VPs for the kill op, faction rules, Hand of the Archon, Power from Pain, Chaos, Cult Mutilation, etc., etc., etc. There's a lot of text there. I actually don't think this is a complicated rule. But there's a lot of text for the nerds that want to really pick through and unpick everything. Obviously, I've made it complicated there. We're going off on a tangent about can the 2 normal hits be from 2 different operatives. Man, that's crushingly irrelevant for how unlikely it is to ever happen. Okay, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. Okay? Now, strategy ploys. Violent temperament. Let's read it. Felgore beastmen are driven by their primal savagery, striking at their foes with frenzied blow after frenzied blow. Whenever a friendly Felgore Ravager operative is fighting or retaliating, after rolling your attack dice, you can use this rule. If you do, you must re-roll all of your attack dice. You can't only re-roll some. Now, first, I really feel for the designers having to include that bit in parentheses because they thought someone's still going to try and argue this. You must re-roll all your attack dice is a perfectly straightforward statement, but I digress. This is Hurricane Insurance, because you have to turn it on in the strategy phase, okay? And then if you roll and they're all misses or only one hit, you get a complete whiff of a roll, you can go, I'm going to choose to use Violent Temperament and re-roll all those dice. And if you don't have the ploy up, and you roll one of those really bad rolls, then you'll be sad, right? And in that moment, you would have paid a CP just to re-roll that hand of dice. But because it's a strategic ploy, you could easily spend for it, have it up, and then have it not happen. Realistically, you're going to end up wanting to play this, I would imagine, in 10.2, 10.3, and 10.4. Just because you wouldn't want to have to deal with not having it. That would be quite upsetting, I would have thought. Right, ambush. Felgore Ravagers utilise cover and darkness to strike from the shadows and butcher the enemy. Whenever a friendly Felgore Ravager operative is activated, if its order is changed from conceal to engage, it's ambushing for that activation. Whenever a friendly Felgore Ravager operative that's ambushing is fighting, you can retain one of your fails as a normal success instead of discarding it, or you can retain one of your normals as a critical success instead of discarding it, and an operative that has one of your frenzy tokens can't ambush. Whoa, right, so if you turn this on, then for that turn, everyone that goes from conceal to engage can re-roll a fail, can retain a fail as a normal or a normal as a crit in combat. So you're going to play this probably once in the game, either on turning point 2 or turning point 3, depending on the tempo of your game. I mean, listen, I'm not very good at kill team, so my games usually degenerate into a big ruck by turning point 2. right? I am aware that out there in Kill Team land, there are people who play very cagey, and therefore they don't have their big ruck turn until turning point 3. But whichever this is, I think this is probably one of those ploys that you use once per game when you're trying to have that big decisive turn. If you end up using it twice because you couldn't get all your guys to usefully go from conceal to engage in TP2, and then you have to do it again in TP3, then your opponent successfully outmaneuvered you and blunted your strike, so it's not that great. Then you've got Pelting Firepower. Though it may lack accuracy, the combined firepower of a group of Felgore Ravagers is rendered lethal by its volume. I don't think that's true, Mr. Flufftext. I don't think 8 auto pistols is rendered lethal by its volume. I could be wrong. When I think of something being rendered lethal by its volume, I don't necessarily think, yes, 8 auto pistols. That's the gun they give children in Necromunda. Now, no, Juves aren't children anymore, Phil. They changed that slightly because child soldiers aren't great, but nevertheless, I've said it now and I'm not editing the video. Whenever a friendly Felgore Ravager operative is shooting an enemy operative that's been shot by another friendly Felgore Ravager operative during this turning point, that first friendly operative's ranged weapons have the ceaseless special rule. If the enemy operative has been shot by more than one other friendly Felgore Ravager operative during the turning point, that friendly operative's ranged weapon has the relentless special rule instead. I mean, you're gonna spend your CP elsewhere. You're not really a team that has guns. Yeah, you can give your boss a plasma pistol, and then you can try and shoot some guys with your auto pistols, and then you can get a plasma pistol, and maybe your plasma pistol has relentless, but like, you don't even, as we'll come on to when we talk about the boss, I don't think you even necessarily want to take that plasma pistol, unless you just really want to paint the plasma pistol, which is perfectly valid. Like, it's not a bad choice, I just don't think it's the automatic choice that it was in the previous edition, right? But yeah, I don't think Pelting Firepower, if this was a team which had guns, like long-range guns, on a gun on every model, that kind of thing, but like I say, I don't think 8 auto pistols is really a lethal volume of anything. And then we got Reckless Determination. Such is their determination to slaughter the enemy that the Felgore Ravagers will shrug off volleys of incoming fire. Whenever an enemy operative is shooting an expended friendly Felgore Ravager operative, you can retain one of your defense dice as a normal success without rolling it, in addition to a cover save if any. Now, I mean, this is one of the things, it's a great defensive ploy because it's a free retain, right? In addition to any cover save you might have. And realistically, the enemy should only be shooting your expended operatives. Now, listen, I don't say that from a place of course, when I play Kill Team, my opponent only ever gets to shoot my expended operatives. I'm not very good at the game, and so I frequently give up shots on my readied operatives, even in turning point 1, that I just haven't seen. Because my problem with Kill Team is I stare at the board and go, everyone looks fine, and then Zimbag goes, I shoot that guy, and I go, oh yeah, right. But in theory, if you're not like cripplingly incapable of looking at the board and internalizing where you can be shot from, you should only be giving up shots on your expended dudes. So for a player who's moderately good at Kill Team, this should be a really effective ploy that you want to use. Again, Zimbad always managed to shoot me in turning point 1, so I'm going to say things that are not my lived experience. But again, hopefully, no one's able to shoot you in turning point 1 because you're on concealed behind cover, right? So hopefully you don't have to spend it in turning point 1, but you spend it in turning points 2, 3, and 4, along with Violent Temperament, and that's going to eat up most of your CP, isn't it? But that's kind of what I'm thinking you're going to want to do. Firefight ploys. Right, so Ruthless Rampage. With each kill they make, so are the Felgore Ravagers driven to new heights of fury with which to chase down... That's an interesting sentence, isn't it? With each kill they make, so are the Felgore Ravagers. I mean, it's a bit poetic. With each kill they make, the Felgore Ravagers are driven to new heights. Like, I guess someone was reading there, I don't know, something. With each kill they make, so are the Stop obsessing over the flavor text, Phil. Nobody cares. There's probably elite players somewhere that have never read this sentence. I'll just read the rule. Use this firefight ploy after a friendly Felgore Ravager operative performs the fight action. If it's no longer within control range of enemy operatives, that friendly operative can immediately perform a free charge action, even if it's already performed the charge action during the activation, but it can't move more than 3 during this action. So, okay. You have one model that can give you APL 3, but that doesn't really help you because you can't fight twice. There is a model on the team who can fight twice, who loves this, right? So there's one model that loves this. For everybody else, it's, if I fight someone and kill them, getting a free 3-inch charge just to keep myself safe isn't bad. Is it the most effective use of a CP? Might be, right? It's not bad, but it's not as wonderful as getting to fight, getting to charge, fight, charge again and fight again, is it? That's amazing. And there is one model that can do that, and we'll flag him up when we get there. Wild Rage. When Felgore Ravagers find themselves overcome by bestial rage, they're able to move with terrifying speed. Use this firefight ploy when a friendly firefight ploy with a P, Phil, come on. Use this firefight ploy when a friendly Felgore Ravager operative is activated until the end of the operative's activation. Add 1 inch to its move stat. Yeah, this is great. You measure, you're an inch out, pay a CP, there you go, we're in now. I mean, look, will it come every game? No. Will you get a wicked smile on your face in that one time when it's actually like, haha, I can charge you because I can pay an inch and do this? Does this count as a gotcha? I mean, if you're playing an elite, high-level competitive Worlds play where everybody's measuring out every possible rule for like half an hour before the first turning point, yeah, you probably need to mention to your opponent that you can spend a CP to get an extra inch on your move. Generally, I probably wouldn't class this as a horrible gotcha, but maybe it is. Speaking of things that might be considered horrible gotchas, Animalistic Fury. When whipped into a frenzy, Felgore Ravagers strike with terrifying strength and brutality. Use this firefight ploy when a friendly Felgore Ravager operative is fighting or retaliating, and you strike with a critical success. Inflict 1 extra damage to that strike. So, again, if you're playing at that high level where your opponent's like trying to deeply math every possible combat, like, well, if I go over there and do that, and I've got this many health, and he's got this many health, and he does this, and I parry, and he does this, you know, how some people get where they just play the whole game in their head before they actually do anything, then you definitely want to make sure your opponent is aware that you can, for a CP, make it so on your crits you do an extra damage. What's nice about this is it's a firefight ploy, so you will know if it's going to make a difference before you spend that CP. It's not actually that strong because you have to get the crit, and then and it has to be a place where 1 damage is going to make a difference, which isn't always the case. But there will be the odd time when this is just like, oh yeah, this is going to come in clutch. Now I'm going to spend a CP and do an extra damage, and then you die. You know? Blood Sense. As the blood flows, a contagious battle frenzy overcomes the Felgore Ravagers. Are these guys corn-themed, or are goats just angry? Like, they're very corn-themed, but then they have a Nurgle guy. I reckon they should have a Zangor and a Slangor, that's the word. Yeah, but they're not in 40k properly. Anyway, man, imagine if they were like, oh yeah, we're going to do an Emperor's Children team for Kill Team, and everyone was like, yay, and then it was Slangors, and then everyone would be like, you what, mate? But that would be really funny, and I'd love to see it. Anyway, less random asides, or more random asides. Blood Sense read that. So, use this firefight ploy during a friendly Felgore Ravager operative's activation when it incapacitates an enemy operative within its control range. Select one other ready friendly Felgore Ravager operative that's visible to him within 3 of the incapacitated enemy operative. When that first friendly operative is expended, you can activate that other friendly operative before your opponent activates. When that other operative is expended, your opponent may activate as normal. So you can get a double activation if you kill somebody and there's somebody else within 3 of you when you've killed them, and then you spend a CP, which is a little tricky to set up. It's not the trickiest thing to set up. It's a little tricky to set up. And then, yeah, I mean, a double activation. It could be a blessing and a curse. You are a 10-man team, and maybe you're trading away your activation advantage, but you're choosing when to do it. So if you're choosing to do it, then we can assume that it's something that you want to do. And activating one after the other can be really strong. Yeah. Hey, we're on to the miniatures. So we're gonna look at the Felgore Ironhorns. This is your leader. APL 2 like the whole team. Move 6 like the whole team. 5 up save like most of the team. 11 wounds. Most of the team have 10, and he's got +1 for being the leader. But then 1 or 2 have 11 as well. And this is a really confusing team to remember what all your pieces do, because they're all like similar and weirdly different. But we'll move on to that later. Okay, so this is your leader. I am struggling a little bit to go backwards and forwards on the weapon loadout, right? So, you can give him a plasma pistol, right? We know what a plasma pistol does. It's a gun. It has piercing 1, right? And if you want to, you can roll it with hot, in which case it gains lethal 5 up and an extra point of normal damage, right? So, if you forego the plasma pistol, you can have a corrupted pistol, which has the same stat line as the plasma pistol, but instead of piercing 1, it has rending, which is a lesser rule. It's not like a hugely lesser rule, though. Now, before the balanced data slate, in the context of all the top teams in the meta having ignores piercing things and there being loads of ignores piercing, the plasma pistol is obviously the wrong choice. Now that the ignores piercing, at least for Marines, has generally been nerfed to, oh well, it would count the piercing as piercing crits. I mean, the corrupted pistol probably isn't better, but it's so marginal that then I'm going to look at what I'm losing by not taking the, so it's a package, right? So we're not deciding between the pistols in isolation. If you go the plasma pistol, you get the bludgeon, so it's 4 dice hitting on 3 is 4/4 brutal. Brutal is quite good, right? But if you go the corrupted pistol, you can get the chainsword, which is 4 dice hitting on 3 is 4/5 rending. And so that rending and that 5 damage makes me want a chainsword. So I think I come even post data slate, where piercing 1 on a plasma pistol is unless you're playing into Brew Brothers, who still have proper ignores piercing 1, right? Even with that, I still think actually I could be dead wrong here, right? But I still kind of think that corrupted pistol, corrupted chainsword is the way to go. Not 110% sure, so let me know in the comments, please and thank you. Then we got Call the Attack, which is a strategic gambit. So select 1 friendly Felgore Ravager operative visible to and within 6 of this operative. That selected operative and each other friendly Felgore Ravager operative within 2 of it can immediately perform a free dash action in order of your choice. So you can hand out potentially a boatload of free dashes if your goats are in a goat ball. Are your goats going to be in a goat ball at the start of the game so you can take advantage of this? Probably at least half of them will be. Bear in mind, he can quite happily target himself, or be within 2 inches of the person he targets if he wants to. And you're not limited to just the first turn, but I can imagine that you can hand out quite a lot of free dashes with this, which is really, really cool. Now, the way maps are laid out, you're often going to be quite happy and safe and concealed in your drop zone. With the free dash, are you still going to be as happy and safe? That's something to look at on a per map layout. Like, don't just because you have frenzy doesn't mean you have to run up the table screaming and just standing in the open going shoot me, right? Because you'll still ultimately die if you try and do that. But yeah, it's still a good ability. Just use it appropriately. We're going to move on to the Deathknell. So the Deathknell has like the standard like loadout for the goats, right? Very standard fella in terms of his stat block. So he's APL 2, move 6, save. Oh no, I lie. He's got an extra point of save. So the standard Goatman save, like the leader had, is 5 up. Your Deathknell's on a 4 up, which is a bit mad, but he's down to 10 wounds. Weapon wise, he's very standard, right? You got your auto pistol, meh. You got your bludgeon, pretty cool, right? It's on 3s, 4/4 brutal. It's not a bad weapon. Icon Bearer. This operative isn't affected by the marker control bullet point of the Frenzy faction rule. Whenever determining control of a marker, treat this operative's APL stat as 1 higher. This isn't a change to its APL stat, so any changes are cumulative with this. So he always gets to count as 3 APL on a marker even when he's frenzied. That's really useful. He is your going and standing on objectives fellow, which is pretty good. Wargong. Whenever an attack would inflict critical damage on a friendly Felgore Ravager operative within 3 of this operative, if this operative doesn't have a frenzy token, you can choose for the attack to inflict normal damage instead. I mean, yeah. Yes, please. So actually, we back to Goat Ball as the tactic, and this chap's going to be in the centre of your Goat Ball, rendering all the goats in the ball immune to crits, which, yeah, okay. The downside of being a Goat Ball is that blast weapons exist, but the upside of being a Goat Ball is it's impossible for them to crit you. Which feels strong. Like, bear in mind, the whole premise of this video is not that I have some deep tactical genius with which to impart. It's more that this is my take on reading through the cards, but I think that seems really, really strong. Then you've got Gnarlscar. Until the start of this operative's next activation, or until this operative is incapacitated, whichever comes first, whenever an operative is shooting the operative, improve your save by 1 and ignore piercing. 3-up ignores piercing is rad. You just have to be using an APL to do it, which is tough. Okay. Now, you have got a whip, which is like a range 3 comms. If you whip guys in your Goat Ball, you can whip the centre of your Goat Ball to make this guy nigh on unkillable, which is pretty cool. But honestly, is he just moving up with the, is he just going activate, I go Gnarlscar, I move, and then I'm just in the middle of all these other goats, and now you can't crit damage them? It's pretty good. And your opponent's going to want to kill him. And so rather than shooting your 5-up save goats that can be critted, are they going to waste time shooting this 3-up save guy that's immune to crit damage? Maybe. Immune to piercing, sorry. Maybe. And of course, he himself is a friendly Felgore Ravager operative within 3 of this operative. So he can't be crit. And he has 3-up save. And he's immune to piercing. I mean, he's just very annoying. Yes, if he's putting his buff on, he's not doing other things other than moving, right? But he's just a very annoying goat. I like it a lot. The Fluxbray. The Fluxbray is pretty cool. Doesn't have a gun. Remember the massed firepower of Felgore Ravagers makes it a sight to behold, or whatever that Ploys. Like, this guy doesn't even, like, all the others at least had a pistol. This guy doesn't even bring an auto pistol. He's not the only one as well. So, yeah. Massed firepower. Yeah. Never mind. But you do have a weapon which, compared to the sort of default combat profile, gets you an extra point of crit and ceaseless. And then you also have Blade Whirl. Whenever this operative is fighting or retaliating, if it doesn't have a frenzy token, you can resolve a success before the normal order. If you do that, the success must be used to block. So you get a block at the start of combat. Really, really good. Just a sort of solid... He's not amazing, just a solid combat model. And then you've got Cleaver Fury for 2 AP, which I don't rate, right? Perform a free reposition action with the operative. During the action, you can move an additional 2 inches, which is kind of cool. You can move within control range of enemy operatives. It can't begin or end the move there. Inflict D3 plus 1 damage to each enemy operative. It moves within control range of. Roll separately after for each after it's moved. Which, I don't know. I'd rather try and kill one model dead than to try and put between 2 and 4 damage on a bunch of models. Now, you know, yeah, okay, against a 7 wound team, 4 damage is great because you could potentially injure them, but then you still have to roll hot on your D3, and it's 2 AP, it's all he's doing. I'd much rather just be trying to charge and fight, right? Because if you can reach out and touch somebody with a reposition with an extra 2 inches, then you can reach out and touch somebody with a charge and a fight. I think I'm just wanting to charge and fight. So I don't see that Cleaver Fury. You might get a scenario where the stars align and it's really, really good because they've got a bunch of guys left on only a few wounds, and you know it's turn 3, turn 4, and then you can go, cool, I can like remove 2 or 3 pieces of my opponents because he's got all these men clustered up here. But in general, I think I'm just trying to kill people as per and using my excellent Blade Whirl ability rather than trying to mess with the Cleaver Flurry. But maybe that's just me. The Gnarlscar. It's got a bionic. It's a goat with a bionic arm. This is cool, right? It's a goat but with a bionic arm. He's got an extra wound. Like the leader, he's just got 11 wounds, right? He's got an auto pistol. I don't know. Massed firepower. It's 8 auto. No, anyway, I keep making the same joke because there's no one to laugh at it because it's a video. Bionic fist, though. An extra point of crit compared to your basic goat, right? It's the word that means having sage-like qualities. Sagacious? I can't pronounce that. Yeah, it's making a astrology reference as well, isn't it? Is it? Maybe. Yeah. At the end of this operative's activation, changes order anyway, which is pretty cool. You know, pop back into conceal if that's going to help you. It's not always as useful as you might think to go like flip to engage, charge, fight, flip to conceal, but it depends where you end up. If you can be on conceal, not in the middle of the open, then that's pretty cool. But the real thing that you're excited about is uncompromising attack. It's fantastic. Perform a free fight action with this operative, then perform a free shoot action with this operative, or vice versa. The operative can perform the shoot action while in control range of an enemy operative, but if it does, it can and must target an enemy operative within its control range, even if other friendly operatives are within the enemy operative's control range. You can only select an auto pistol for shoot action. So basically, if you're in combat with somebody, you can fight them, and then if they're still alive, you can shoot them in the face with your auto pistol, or if you kill them when fighting them, you can then freely shoot somebody else within 8 if there is somebody with that same auto pistol. It's just pretty cool. It makes him really killy, and I enjoy it. Yeah, and he's got 11 wounds for some reason. Gorehorn. Not to be confused with Necromunda Dramatis Personae Gore-Halfhorn. This is a Felgore Gorehorn. It really saddens me that you can't have a plasma pistol and a chainsword on your leader just so that you could represent the leader of your team with Gore-Halfhorn. Have you ever seen the Gore-Halfhorn model? It's amazing. He's smoking a cigar while being a beastman. But anyway, so he has that auto pistol. He's contributing to the arsenal of firepower that the Felgore have at their disposal. I said I would stop making the same joke, and I lied. He also has Skull Cleaver. Is a Skull Cleaver or Skull Cleaver? It's like an artifact, isn't it? A Skull Cleaver. 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, 4/5 damage, lethal 5, and Head Taker. What the juice is Head Taker? Whenever you incapacitate an operative with a weapon, you roll a d3. You can regain a number of lost wounds equal to the result, unless you're frenzied, or until the end of the battle, you can add the result to the critical damage stat of the operative's Skull Cleaver to a maximum of 8. Wow. Just power up the weapon. This is some D&D. This is some D&D style stuff here. I love it. I think it's really cool. I think it's a cool rule. And of course, this is the guy who can perform 2 fight actions during his activation. So you could potentially, if you start off in combat, you can fight. You can spend the CP to do a free 3-inch charge, and you can fight again. Or if you've also been whipped by the whippy fella that we'll get to, and therefore have 3 APL, it's quite possible for you to charge, fight, do a 3-inch charge, and then fight again, and just have a lovely time being a Felgore Gorehorn. Sure, yeah, nice. And he gets, unlike some of these other guys, right, like the Fluxbray, who I think is less cool, doesn't get a pistol, right? The Gorehorn, who for my money is like pretty close to being the goat, right? I know I'm too old to say goat, but I had to go for the pun. He gets to keep his pistol. Yeah, man. The Herd-Goad, the aforementioned whippy guy. This guy's a really complicated guy with some fiddly little weapons that you'll struggle to do anything with. Honestly, the main purpose of him is Incite Fury down here for 1 AP. Select one of the friendly Felgore Ravager operatives, including the Shaman or the Ironhorn, visible to him within 3, and you give him an APL for one of your APL. And I'm convinced that that's his main point. Okay, what else does he do? He's got an auto pistol, contributing to the massive firepower of the Felgore Ravagers. And then he has his Crackhorn Whip. So if you're familiar with novitiates and their whippy lady, he is a similar thing. So the Crackhorn Whip can be used as a ranged weapon with a 3-inch range, in which case it's 4 dice hitting on 2s, 2, 3, lethal 4, which is pretty cool, and stun, or in melee, the same profile, but it's hitting on 3s instead of 2s, and it's lethal 4, and shock, which is just melee stun, right? So actually doesn't really benefit from being in melee, right? Quite happy to be within 3 whipping you, because then he's more likely to hit you, and he can't be hit back. So basically, doesn't have a decent melee weapon, which is sad. I mean, they can't all be bangers, right? He's really your kind of comms fella. But he has got this rule, whip control. Whenever an enemy operative is visible to and within 3 of this operative, if this operative isn't within control range of any other enemy operatives, subtract 1 from the attack stat of that enemy operative's melee weapons to a minimum of 1. Your opponent must spend 1 additional AP for that enemy operative to fall back. So again, if you're pursuing the goat ball strategy that I outline, and this guy is in your ball, this is just a debuff, right? This is just, you don't have to spend to turn this on. This is just a 3-inch debuff, so you've just got your guy moving up, handing out an extra APL to someone, potentially, and then exerting this whip control debuff for the benefit of his fellow goatmen. Yeah? I'm not sure to what extent blobbing oily goats up into a giant ball is useful, but it is a tactic that you could employ. And then fear frag grenades and flamethrowers, but it's a tactic that you could employ. The Mangler! Standard profile, except he's got the extra wound again. Good luck remembering who's got the extra wound. He's the other guy that doesn't get to bring a pistol. Okay, I'm not going to say it. But he is a fantastic close combat man. He has 4 dice hitting on 3s, 4, 6, ceaseless, it's good. And then Tactical Hunter. Whenever this operative is fighting with this weapon against an expended operative, the first time you strike with a crit, you can immediately resolve another success as a strike before your opponent. Notice it doesn't say another normal success, so if you've rolled 2 crits, you can just go, ho, ho, ho. I hit you for 12. Which, is as great as it sounds. Berserker, you can't shoot other than to guard, but then can't perform a free shoot during the interruption. You must spend 1 additional AP to pick up markers and do other actions, excluding Operate Hatch. Nice. And then you've got Savage. The first time the operative performs a fight action during each of his activations, if it isn't incapacitated, it can immediately perform a free fight action afterwards. You don't have to select the same enemy operative to fight against. This takes precedence over other action restrictions, and you can't use the Ruthless Rampage ploy between the 2 fights, so you can't use your free charge. So this is only useful if he's gotten into a multiple combat, but he has got into multiple combat. Just like handing out the damage. It's good fun. It's good fun. The Shaman. Standard stat line. Only 10 wounds. Not that hardy. the Shaman just kind of suffers from being able to do a lot of stuff and only having 2 APL. So the Shaman he's got an auto pistol, and he's got his stick, which is not wonderful in combat, 3-5 shot. Not awful, but not great. He's got Tech Curse, which is 4 dice hit on 3s, 1-3. Psychic, Rending, Saturate, Seek. Not Seek Light, full fat, luxury premium Seek. So this is able to... I'm not normally a huge guy for chip damage, but being able to chip damage somebody that's wallying around up on a vantage point on a conceal... Yeah, alright, I'll take it. 4 dice hitting on 3s, 1-3 with Rending. You might injure something weak, which is a big deal, right? If that's somebody that's going to get -1 to hit, big deal. And then if they don't move or do something about your Shaman, you're going to do it again. Right? Yeah, it's good. It's good. Anything that has Seek, it's 1-3, right? But it does have Rending and Seek. It's pretty good. Then you've got a really powerful heal. So for 1 AP, select a Felgore Ravager operative that isn't frenzied, that's visible to within 6. That friendly operative regains 2d3 lost wounds. Nice. If that operative had incapacitated an enemy operative while fighting or retaliating, it gains 6 instead. Nice. Yep. Good. And then you've got Mantle of Darkness. At the start of this operative activation, it's incapacitated, whichever comes first. Whenever a friendly Felgore Ravager operative is visible to within 3, has a conceal order, is in cover, they can't be selected as a valid target, taking precedence to all others. So he hands out to people visible to him, and within 3, he can hand out Super Conceal, which is a bit more niche, but it's still very powerful potentially. So you got 2 APL, do you want to move? Do you want to Tech Curse? Do you want to heal? Do you want to hand out Mantle of Darkness? A lot of things he wants to do, all of them pretty good though. A utility piece, one of the few pieces on your team that doesn't boil down to run forwards and smash things. The Toxhorn, the Nurgle element in a team that's otherwise quite... we have just had a Shaman as well. Maybe the Shaman could be considered Zechian because Khorne hates magic, but the Toxhorn's definitely Nurgle. He's got that auto pistol, and he's got a cleaver, and he's got a standard profile. He's not that exciting. He's alright. He's pretty good goat man. But he's got a Pox Bomb, so you can use stun grenades from Universal Equipment. Doing so doesn't count towards any limited uses that you may have. Whenever an enemy operative takes stun test as a result of this operative performing the stun grenade action, on a 3-up, you also inflict damage on the enemy operative equal to the dice result, halved rounding up. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not brilliant. It's not bad. It does damage on a 3-up. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. And then he's got Toxic Blessings. You can ignore any changes to the operative's APL stat, not affected by enemy operative shock weapon rules. Whenever an attack dice deals normal damage of 3 or more to this operative, roll 1d6. On a 5-up, you do 1 less damage. Yeah. He's just a hardy goat with a decent grenade rule. Yeah, he's pretty cool. He doesn't light my world on fire, but he's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Get the feeling in the last edition his Pox Bomb was more impressive. Now, well, the Vandal also doesn't... I'm really sorry, guys, it's 7 auto pistols. The Vandal also doesn't have an auto pistol. Another slightly different strong melee guy. Yeah, I'll talk more about that at the end. So this guy feels like a rehash of previous guys. Yeah, Mangler is pretty cool. 4 dice hitting on force, 5-5, brutal, vicious blows. So whenever the operative is fighting, he has ceaseless. So that means... when you're not when you're defending, only when you're attacking. When you're attacking, you have ceaseless. Good. And then he has sweeping blows for 1 AP. You can do D3 plus 1 damage on each other operative visible to him within 2. So another thing of dealing out chip damage to guys so close that you probably wouldn't bother with because you're probably going to just charge and fight with your big man crusher. He's cool. I'm getting fatigued at describing melee specialists that are just slightly different. Then you've got the warriors. I don't think you're taking any warriors. So their warrior special thing is that when they're frenzied, they don't count as injured, which is... it's not bad. It's pretty good. but I don't think you're going to take any warriors. They're not doing it for me. Yeah, they're not doing it for me. Equipment. Let's go through it then. Equipment. So brass adornments. Brass-plated hooves, horn caps, or welded spikes incite within the Felgore Ravagers an even greater lust for violence and provide them with additional weapons with which to meet it out. Once a battle, you can use Animalistic Fury and Wild Rage Firefight Ploys for 0 CP each. Animalistic Fury and Wild Rage Firefight Ploys. Let me just... Animalistic Fury is the 1 additional damage, and the Wild Rage is the 1 additional inch of movement. So, see, I've written here it's 2 CP for an equipment point. If you end up wanting to use those, they are situational ones. But I guess what it means is you don't need to, because they're situational, you don't need to worry about keeping the CP in the bag in case you need them, because you've just got your Brass Adornments. So yeah, I'd always take the Brass Adornments. Yeah, because then I'm not worrying about not being able to have my cool thing for the situational, and I can spend my CP on my buffs and things that I want most of the time. Gore marks. Inflicted upon a Felgore Ravager by their Shamans, these wounds continue to bleed as the battle unfolds. The stench of fresh blood empowering the Beastman. Once per turning point, when a friendly Felgore Ravager operative is fighting or retaliating, you can use this rule. If you do, inflict 1 damage on that friendly operative and re-roll 1 of your attack dice. If that's a fail, inflict 1 damage on that friendly operative. Oh, I like this. You're generally hitting on 3s, so you're likely to hit with the re-roll. Even if you fail and take a damage, they still take a damage, which could be really important. And you don't have to you don't have to do it. It's once per turning point you can. So you can do it in times where you having 1 less life point won't be decisive. So yeah, I'm going to take Gore marks. Chaos Sigil imbued with warp energies and blessed by a Shaman. A Shaman? Not the Shaman that's on your team, just a random Shaman. Anyway, and blessed by a Shaman, this icon offers protection to a dedicated worshipper of the Dark Gods. Once per turning point, when an operative is shooting a friendly Felgore Ravager operative, at the start of the roll defense dice step, you can use this rule. If you do, worsen the X of the piercing weapon rule by 1, if any, until the end of the sequence. Note that piercing 1 would therefore be ignored. Turn off piercing 1 once per turning point for an operative. Yup. Warpaint. Applied in a ritual fashion prior to battle, Warpaint emboldens the Felgore Ravagers to shrug off their wounds and hurl themselves into the fight. You can ignore any changes to the move stat of friendly Felgore Ravager operatives for being injured. Bear in mind that your guys count as injured once they're frenzied, and they will all become frenzied. This becomes a must-take as well. They're all must-takes. I don't know. Like, if you really want smoke grenades, and I would think that you might want smoke grenades with this team, you're probably going to take the equipment ploy, honestly, aren't you? Because you don't really need your scout move because you've got your free dashes from your leader, and there's nothing you super want to do turning point 1 in terms of strategic ploys. So you're probably going equipment to grab smoke grenades with this team, and then all of the faction equipment, I would imagine. If I was on Beta Decima and I had to drop something, Gore marks? Maybe Brass Adornments, you could play without those two. But I don't want to. I want them all. Tac Ops. Like, by now, this feels quite solved. Recon's really good. You know, you could go Plant Beacon, but actually, I think for these, you want to go Confirm Kill. I think Confirm Kill is just the easiest thing to score for the Felgore. Felgore. You could go for, like, Overrun or Storm Objectives. They might be doable as well, but I like Confirm Kill for the Felgore. That's what I would take probably every single time. Brimming over with tactical nuance. Yes, wow, how to buy them. They're a one-box team. You go to the Games Workshop website, you spend yourself £42.50 a steel, you get your 10 goat men, and you build them, and you don't build any warriors, and then you're done, and then nice team, and hooray. And that's yeah, that's that. Like, cool. I'm glad. That's it. Final thoughts. Oh, rules-wise, I like the look of this team. Rules-wise, I think they're a cool team. I feel like the operatives are a bit needlessly different, right? So, okay. When I was playing my Night Lords, even, and they're a 6-model team, I would always kind of get confused in my head about which rules the Skin Thief had and which rules the Lightning Claw fella had. You know, when you have multiple combat specialists like this, I think it's really hard to keep track. Maybe this is just me being feeble-minded, but I think, like, you know, you got your leader, you got your shaman, you got your whippy guy, you got a pile of combat goats, and then trying to keep track of which special little character combat goat has which special little ability is a struggle, maybe. But I do feel like I could enjoy playing this team. The trouble is, I don't even own a set of Felgore Ravagers because I don't like the miniatures. I don't like the miniatures. Now, maybe, yeah, I'm currently painting orcs, and I would have said the same thing about orcs back in the day. Maybe this is a team I could now love if, I don't know, Felgore. The models don't do for me. I'll probably be sticking with my Wrecker crew for the foreseeable future, who I feel are in not the same, right, because they're more of an elite team, but they're in a similar space where they're reasonably simple and they love to fight. So the Wrecker have more guns. Yeah. I could like the Goat Boys. I don't know. Please do subscribe, comment, like, etc. and consider joining the Discord. I'm sort of back on the team review train now, trying to crack on through a few of these. Obviously, there'll be the live stream tomorrow. I've got a game with Zimbad on Wednesday, assuming we're both fit. Probably we're going to play some Shatterpoint, though. And then on Thursday, I might do a battle report for that game. And then on Friday, another video, maybe another team review. We'll see. I want to say thank you to all my members, but extra specially thank you to Nightfall and Sam Troth, who are both subscribed at the highest tier and give a significant portion of money every single month to fund whatever this is. Thanks, guys. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed the faction rundown, and I hope you look forward to the next one. I will try and cover over the last 2 Chaos teams I haven't done, so the Chaos Cults and the Galapox Infected. Look forward to those. Bye-bye, cheery bye, bye-bye, 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 bye-bye.